behind the cutting edge and trying to catch up and find out what's going on. That's what NASA has become. NASA is not at the cutting edge where they're sending probes out and they're doing, things going to Mars and things to find out where the cutting edge is. So they're completely oblivious to what's really going on. It's hilarious. But NASA used to be, before the early 1990s, it was the cutting edge. It was where they were advancing their technologies, how to build these torsion physics machines, these UFOs, and all the other stuff. But they got supplanted in the early 90s, and maybe they left planet. I don't know what happened. But the people that have been in since Bill Clinton was president have all just been running behind the curve, constantly trying to find out what's going on. So that tells me that there's a bunch of ignorant people there.
Well, I mean, as Richard Hoagland says many times, the lie is different at every level.
That's right.
NASA is part of that. In other words, it's a layer on the onion. It's one of the outer layers, unfortunately, and people don't realize that. So they're flying around in tin cans powered by, by fire.
Hilarious.
While the people that really know what's going on are using free energy and have been for 40 years or more.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I talked to one of them. I'm not going to say his name. He asked me never to say his name. I won't. But one of the guys who was a top guy at NASA during the Apollo, I talked to him in the early 90s. And he told me that they had developed high-powered trans-dimensional craft in the late 40s, and that they'd gone to Mars in 1959. They had bases all over the moon, and I didn't believe him at the time. I thought he must have lost his mind. And now I know, of course, he was being very sober and was telling me the truth. So
yeah, the thing is that the truth is far more complex and harder to believe.
That's for sure.
And science fiction is actually closer to the truth most of the times, as far as I can tell.
That's right, and you'll sound like a complete wacko maniac if you start telling people the truth. You're just like, oh, you poor man, if you get the straitjacket. Well, I've been disinvited from more parties than anybody. I just start telling people the truth at a party, and Jay, you're freaking everybody out.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. But I am curious what it is that you think that you know, in other words, that hasn't gone out there already. I mean, I want to really get down to brass tacks here because as you realize and as you see, you are talking to Project Camelot. I can tell by talking to you, you're not familiar with all of our stuff. And, that's okay. It's understandable. We have over 100 hours of video and audio footage on our site. And we've been at this the way you've been at it. In other words, completely obsessively, going down the rabbit hole. But I have a feeling, I certainly know that Hoagland is keeping a lot of cards in his pocket. And that was obvious in my interview with him. And, he's a delightful man. But I have to say, what is it that that insiders might have been telling you that you can tell us here, that you can share, that would be of interest?
Well, I can tell you one thing about Richard, anyway, is if you want to see something very interesting, and I think it accidentally slipped out because I asked Richard about it, and he seemed a little miffed that it was out. But I don't know if it's even up. He may have actually gotten it off. But go to YouTube and type in Richard Hoagland Saturn. I can't remember what town it is. I think it was in Leeds, in England. A lecture in Leeds, or just type in England or UK because I can't remember the town suddenly for the moment. But anyway, there's about a 20-minute video on there that somebody took from the audience, maybe with a cell phone camera or something, of a lecture that he was giving there. And I don't know what got into him, but he just spilled the beans seriously in this lecture. And unfortunately, we can't see the other parts of no doubt if it's a Hoagland lecture, it was about 4 hours long, so there's only 20 minutes in there, so, you know, I don't know what else he got into, but basically what he's saying is a fascinating video, and it's the secret work that I've been working on and he's been working on for a long time, and that is the most astonishing thing of all, and that is that Saturn is a hyperdimensional machine. It's not a planet. And it was engineered, God knows when, millions of years ago by some race, maybe it was us. The Puranas say that we came from Sirius millions of years ago and created life on Earth and on Mars and on Tiamat. So I think this great civilization that existed millions of years ago in our solar system. And our solar system is not just a bunch of rock going around. It is a harmonic system. The reason that there's life on the third, the fourth, and the fifth planets is because those are Pythagorean harmonics. And the whole system is a harmonic system. And the seventh planet, because don't forget the asteroid belt would have been the fifth. So Saturn would be the seventh planet. That is the end of the octave, okay, the very last note of the octave. And then the next note in an octave, the eighth note, is a harmonic octave up from the previous. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So
okay,
Saturn is the in-between. Pardon me?
It's the jump gate. In other words,
it is, and this is why Iapetus, and see, you get into some of the dangest stuff here. I mean, I'm a big Kubrick file and have written, you know, articles on Stanley Kubrick, and in the book 2001: A Space Odyssey, the astronaut Bowman goes to Saturn, not Jupiter, like in the movie, and he goes to Iapetus to find the monolith, which is the Stargate. Okay, and we now know from Hoagland's work on Iapetus that it is not a normal planet by any, or moon by any stretch of the imagination. And what it is the harmonic resonant tuning fork for Saturn. And Saturn, which is Set, which is Chronos, which is time, it's the chronometer of the inner planets. And when you slip through Saturn, you're slipping through the time gate, and you can go anywhere and you can do anything. And they know this. There's an incredible book which hardly anybody has read. It's probably $200 now on Amazon. Came out in the 70s by a NASA scientist called The Ringmakers of Saturn. And oh my God, it's an incredible book if you've seen it. And it talks about, you know, they're building rings. There's gigantic vehicles that are orbiting Saturn. Iapetus is not a moon, it's a spaceship. And this is the remnants of this incredible civilization, and I believe that Earth people, I know that Earth people in the last 50 years, not Anunnaki, not anybody, but people from Earth have gone there, actually gone there. And so they're back engineering Phobos, which I don't know if you don't know about that part, but Phobos is one of their big ships from millions of years ago, and the European Space Agency released a jaw-dropping photo of Phobos a few months ago that Hoagland wrote a great article about, which shows the ribbing of the substructure. The infrastructure of the planet is actually a spaceship, and if they even got to Phobos, they could back-engineer everything they need, and they have. This is what's going on. There's a breakaway civilization.
The moon is also a spaceship in essence.
It is, actually. It's hollow, and they know it. I was told in 1991 that the moon has a gigantic set of two tetrahedrons in it, inside. And that's its power. And it may actually be the ship that we came here on from Sirius 30 million years ago or whatever. I mean, I don't know. My timelines at that point are screwy. I just know what I'm told, and I know what I see. And so, you know, they blew up Tiamat in a war using hyperdimensional torsion weapons, And that threw the whole harmonics out of whack in the solar system. And so now you have planets that are floating on their sides, and you have elliptical orbit planets, and you have they're no longer in harmony. And if we enlightened beings can get a hold of the power of Saturn,